Oh,
Hello, how are you?
so apologise for my hay fevery swollen eyes.
And my black eye, she's been hitting me again. Not.
By the time this goes out, we won't be here. We'll be back in the UK, won't we?
Shh, don't tell everybody.
Any-
Hello, one who have joined us.
Yeah. Anyway, this week's video is about our 80
Just over 83 miles up the River Trent.
from Hazelford Lock to the Trent and Mersey Canal.
The full journey.
So we apologise, it is longer than we like our videos to be. It is just over 25 minutes long, but it does cover the whole of the River Trent. Yeah. But we will do separate videos in coming weeks to cover Foster navigation, our trip to Lincoln, Nottingham and Newark. We'll do them separately.
Wow. Moving on.
Enjoy. Please don't forget.
Push the button, ring the bell, ding ding, ring box, and my messages if you want. Don't forget it's free to subscribe. It's not going to cost you the earth at all, apart from a little bit of time.
And we'll see you at the end.
Ciao.
Au revoir.
Is it an adventure or adventure? Adventure or an adventure?
About 12 minutes to get there, so 2.5 hours. Okay. Just take your time. Thank you very much. Cheers. I know, thanks. All the best. Take it easy. Wow.
Oh, I'm not worried about all that. As long as we straighten up again, it'll be alright.
Have a slight bump on this
That's
one.
alright, that's fine. Don't worry.
If you got it without bumping, you'd be well fuel.
Oh my god. Currently sat waiting patiently for a couple of boats to go out of West Duckworth Lock. Just asked the lockkeeper how they judge when to let them out, and the gauge in the middle of the screen with the arrow to it, the water needs to be to number 3 because that means there's 3 foot of water, and most narrowboats have got about a 2.5 foot draft, so that means there'll be enough water for them to get out and it will safe in the river for them. Hopefully the weather will be as beautiful as this for us when we go out next week, because we had storms, that flag was horizontal and waves and white horses when we came down. Hopefully the weather's turned and it'll be like this next week for us, like I say. It's just emptying for the first 2 boats to go out on the Trent before us. We're queued up behind them. The tide's turned, it is now coming in. There's a cormorant just there in the water, don't know if you can see it, just gone underwater. And we're heading down that way towards Torksey. I have to say, I am feeling extremely nervous right now. Once we've got out of the lock, had the tilt getting onto the river and get going, I'm sure I'll start to feel a bit better. Just going down in the lock, waiting to go out onto the River Trent.
See you later. I'll try not to. Oh,
Here we go. No, it's better than last time, much better than last time.
Besides, I was just on the wrong side when I went Trent in, isn't it?
That was a far better experience than coming out of Keedby. We didn't tilt very much at all. Just coming up towards Gainsborough Road Bridge. Have to go through the middle arch here. There's a floating pontoon just there to our just going up in the lock at Torksey, and on the lock gates they've got some teapots. Obviously the old disused lock gates. So we're just exiting Torksey Lock to go further up the River Trent towards Newark. As you can see, a bit of a grey day, but despite the spots of rain it is relatively calm, so hopefully it's going to be just coming to the end of the channel from Foster and out onto the River Trent. Just see the tide is moving slightly. The further up the river we get, the less the tide gets. No doubt we will have a bit of a tilt as we go out. River cruiser just coming in. Lovely transition that was onto the river. Very low revs, less tidal water, and no tilt. Need to be careful of debris in the water on the river. Huge log just there in the water. So calm here on the river today. Reflections in the water until we get to them with our wake we're making are stunning. So there's these green triangles as markers on the way down the river, as well as the kilometre boards, and then obviously landmarks like the pylons, all marked on the map so you can gauge where you are. Faster than we are. To make sure you read the instructions along with the maps, because the red line looks like it is towards the edge of the river on this section, but the instructions actually say keep in the middle, so you just have to be really alert to what you're doing.
Let's see you don't get run over by no lamps.
There's also big yellow marker boards as you go down as well with information on. There's the weir next to Cromwell Lock, and the entrance to the lock is on the left hand side?
Right hand side. The lock's on the lock.
Okay. Right, yeah, there it is, I can see it now. I can see the entrance to the lock now, just here on the right. Lock keeper's got the lock set for us so we can go straight in. Take a while for the lock to fill, bit of a gap in the gates there. We're now on the non-tidal Trent, having come through Cromwell Lock, and surprisingly it's wider than the tidal Trent was before we came into the lock. Going past the Muscombe Ferry pub, which does have some moorings as well. Just coming down towards the A1 road bridge. The river's still quite wide here. Coming in towards Newark, it's another 2 or 3 kilometres until we get into Newark itself. Just going past the weir, which diverts part of the river around the town. Railway track there, you can see the railway line, electrics for it, that's the East Coast main line. So this is Newark Netherlock, Paul's just waiting down there on the boat whilst we wait for the lock to empty so he can come in. Quite a large lock, similar to the size of the Euro locks that we're used to on the South Yorkshire navigation. Very ferocious, the water coming into these locks, so you need to make sure you've got your boat secured with the ropes, because you're going to get absolutely battered around if not. And there are warning signs about the turbulence during the lock operation on the gates as well. We're at the 39-kilometre marker now, just heading in towards the town centre, having come through the lock. So we're just coming past King's Waterside and Marina, and then hopefully just up here on the left hand side should be some moorings, because there's an Aldi and we can go and get some shopping. We're in Newark town centre, going to stop and go into Aldi. It's quite busy, there's boats all on the moorings that side, so we've come this side. There's the barge and the castle. There's some moorings here that we're going to stop at. There's Newark Castle. So we've been moored here opposite Newark Castle for a few days, waiting for our bow thruster to come back today and be refitted, and then we're planning on heading further up the river towards Nottingham tomorrow. But we came back from a night out last night to a note on our boat from a boat that was next to us. Kid had been jumping on his roof and chucked his flower pots into the river, and one of our flower pots is missing. So we're just turning the boat round and then heading just back under the bridge to the floating pontoon for tonight before we head down towards Nottingham tomorrow. This is the mooring that we're moving into for tonight, but with the flow of the river, Paul's just gone a bit further down the river to turn the boat round so it doesn't take him into the boats that are already moored there. We don't want to crash, wouldn't be a good thing to do. So he'll turn round down there and then come back so we can moor here for tonight. Once we've done this morning, I'm taking the van to a point up the river about 5 miles away so that it's there ready for when we get there tomorrow. We've got a friend cruising with us tomorrow, so she's going to leave her car this end and then I can bring her back to collect her car once we get there tomorrow. So here we are coming out of Newark town lock, heading down the Trent towards Hazelford Lock for today, leaving Newark, and it very quickly opens out into countryside. This piece of the river is more like a canal. It's really pretty, it's quite narrow. You just need to be aware when you come down this part of the River Trent and past Farndon Marina, there are pleasure craft being used, people out using their ribs, so you just have to be alert to what's going on and make sure that there's no ribs zipping up and down that you're likely to collide with. And there is apparently a ferry that goes across here somewhere, because there's no access to get across from one side to the other side of the River Trent for some considerable miles. Wooden lodge on the pontoon here. And then on our port side there's children in the water, so obviously it's another thing you need to be aware of coming through here. At Hazelford Lock, and we're moored to the other side of the bridge, just down there, ready to go through the lock and head on down towards Nottingham tomorrow. And there's also good parking here, so we've left the van parked here and we'll come back and collect it in a couple of days from Nottingham. So Hazelford Lock is on an islet, forms a bit of an island, and this is the other side of the island, another weir, and a bit of a haven for wildlife really. It's really quiet and peaceful around here. There's some swans, some ducks. I'm sure if we sat here for a while we'd see quite a lot.
There's an egret up on the end of the weir.
Oh yeah. An egret there. This has been an absolutely lovely mooring spot at Hazelford Lock. And then across that bridge is only accessible by CRT key. So it's nice and secure and quiet. The locks on the River Trent are manned by lockies during the summer months between Easter and October from 9:30 till 5, and then the rest of the time you can operate them yourselves with CRT keys. They're all electric locks, but you do need to make sure you tie up with your middle rope when you're in them, because the water into them is quite turbulent and you would get bashed about if you didn't. We're in Hazelford Lock. The lockie's just closing the gates. She's asked us to moor on our starboard side because the sluice gates on the port side aren't working. So to prevent us getting bashed about too much, we're roped up and moored starboard side. There is another boat in here as well in front of us, so we're moored at the back. So the lock's just filling. tied at the front, and then Paul's holding the midline on because there's nowhere to tie the rear line. Gates are now opening, so we're just untying the ropes and then we can go out of the lock. Boat in front of us obviously is going to go first, and then we're going to pull up on our starboard side to fill up with water before we carry on towards Nottingham. We've come through the lock and now we're filling our water tank. Tap just here, and then Paul's sat down there with the hose in the tank filling it up. Hopefully it should take about 20 minutes or so, maybe half an hour depending on the water flow. This is a beautiful section of the River Trent heading from Hazelford Lock down towards Gunthorpe Lock. It's very, very isolated, there's no access either side, but the trees and the countryside are stunning. So we're now in Gunthorpe Lock. Again, there's a locky on. We're roped front and back for safety, and the locky's just going to start letting the water in. So we're just leaving the River Trent onto the Nottingham Canal. This is Meadow Lane Lock. There is no locky. Don't need a key, just need your windlass to operate it. So here we are at Beeston Lock onto the River Trent. It is very, very gusty. We've checked the forecast. It's going to get windier over the next few hours. So we're not going to venture out there today. We're going to wait. And then it's forecast to be far better at 7 o'clock in the morning before it gets worse again during the day.
Yeah, the bed.
I'll have to get out of bed, won't I? So yeah, we're going to do it at 7 o'clock in the morning. So we wanted to go and see Paul Barber at P Barber Boat Builders up at Long Eaton, so we're going to walk up there now, see him, sort out anything we need to with him, collect the van, move it down to Shardlow, and then get the bus back here, so at least the van's in Shardlow for when we get there tomorrow. It's just before 7 AM and I'm just setting at Beeston Lock so we can get out onto the River Trent to do our final section of it, round to the beginning of the Trent and Mersey Canal. Like we said, didn't do it yesterday because it was too windy. Wind is much better this morning, nowhere near as bad as it was. So just emptying the lock out, not a lot of it to empty, and then Paul can bring the boat in. Usually on a lock, when you've finished with it, you close all the paddles again, but on this particular lock, the paddles on the starboard side, looking back this way, have both got red tops on, and you actually leave those paddles open, obviously to help with the water levels management on the system. This lock has also got permanent windlasses in place and doesn't need any keys either. Someone's obviously hit the gate recently. It's got great big fresh wood splits in it and it's all splintered off. Don't know if it's been reported to CRT or not, so I've taken a photograph and I'll let them know this morning. So we're just coming up towards an island. It is clearly signposted to keep to the starboard side. We're going upstream to go around it. There's a cormorant in the tree just there, just hoping he might take off and we'll start recording. But typically when I want to, he probably won't. And then there's swan on the edge there with some cygnets as well, but can't quite see them either. Here's the island on our port side. It's got a building on it, got a pontoon, probably a bit of a haven for fishermen. There's a gravel pit there as well apparently. So we've spent 3 weeks on and off with the River Trent since we left West Stockwith and the Chesterfield Canal. We have seen some lovely places. There's been some really nice places we've gone through. We've been down the Foster Navigation, spent nearly a week in Newark, through Nottingham on the Nottingham Canal.
Plenty of weirs.
Lots of weirs. But to be honest, it's got a little bit monotonous now and I'll be glad to get back onto some canals. You don't feel like that, do you? But it's just got to head down and go for a lot of the river. Nowhere to stop on a lot of it. And yeah, like I say, there has been some lovely places, but I will be glad to get back on the canals. Here's the other side of the island, looking back at it. Nice cruising at this early in the morning, get to see the different colours of the sun through the clouds, the reflections on the water. Paul's doing as usual and talking to the swans. Coming to Cranfleet Lock, and then we were going through here we are, Cranfleet Lock, falls down now the lock landing, just whilst I empty it. It is another lock with fixed windlasses and no keys, quite a deep one, and then it takes us on to Cranfleet Cut. Nottingham Yacht Club is also based here, and there's lots of boats moored just the other side, so I have to go nice and slow once we get out onto the cut. There we go, leaving Cranfleet Lock. So here we are at the junction at the end of Cranfleet Cut. Floodgates are open. There's the sign showing you where everything is. And we'll do a shout out for Amy and Wes of Boat Time UK here, because I can remember them going up the Earwash Canal. So that branches off to the River Soar on our port side there. On the starboard side is the entrance onto the Earwash Canal. Sorry about the wind noise, but as forecast it has got windy now. So we weren't sure what the piece of river was that we were on between Cranfleet Cut and Sawley Cut, because it doesn't actually show that in the Nicholson's guide, but it is actually the last piece of the River Trent. So there are lockies here at Sawley Lock, which is always handy to have a bit of help.
Say again.
Pair of coots there with their chicks. Sawley floodlock is open, so we can carry straight on through and up towards the Trent and Mersey. We're just coming up to come underneath the M1 motorway. Been past this many times on the motorway. There's a weir there, and then the river does get really quite rough down over some rocks and some what looks like rapids when it's in flood. Like I say, been past it many times, but it's very calm down there today. But when it's in flood, there's like whitewater rapids down there. Here's the pipe bridge just after the M1 bridge. Here we go, starboard side is the entrance to the River Derwent. Port side is a marina and continuation of the River Trent, and straight ahead is the Trent and Mersey Canal.
8 months ago we were here, stood at them rocks in front of.
We were here for the Shardlow first Inland Port Festival back in September last year, on those rocks at the end, watching the rivers.
Happening again this September.
Yeah, and we're going to be trading there again in September this year, 10th and 11th. This is the start of the Trent and Mersey Canal, and it goes all the way up to the River Mersey, hence its name. So, coming into Derwent Mouth Lock. So I've only opened one set of paddles at the moment, with the rush of water being as it is. Open to this side to keep the boat over to that side. Once it calms down a bit, then I'll open the other paddles. There are ground paddles on this lock as well, but I haven't opened them because it's filling plenty quick enough without them being opened.
So there you go. That's just over 83 miles. I've got to persuade her now to do the last 10. Up from Keadby round to Trent Falls, which is the faster bit of the River Trent.
No comment.
It's nearer the tide, that's all. So anyway, you've joined us, you've been with us. There's a few more side bits to come. Yeah. And
Oh, I know what we didn't mention at the beginning, so we'll have to mention now, is the Safe Trent Link group on Facebook, which have been an absolute fountain of knowledge to us and been really helpful. We've downloaded all their information and asked questions in the group when we've been planning our trips, so they're well worth joining, and we will put the link below for you.
definitely got to be done.
Yeah, it helps make it a safer trip.
Yeah. Right then, in that case, we best leave you, because you'll have got bored of listening to us now, won't you? 25 minutes of turning around and watching us going up
Yes.
the River Trent. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you again soon. And don't forget, push the button, ring the bell, and It's free to subscribe.
See you next week.
Take care. Bye.